Issue 7 Living Proof magazine, now available on our Patreon and online shop, featuring Jason Dill, Wanto246, Star Team East Village, Ed Templeton, Pear 246, Rat Rats, GK Screw MSK, Cheryl Dunn, Strawberry Western, Labor Skate Shop, Greetings Tour, Casey Bolding, and Brigade. Every copy comes with a Wanto poster. Patreon subscribers on the Living Proof magazine tier are guaranteed a copy for the month of September 2024, even if the online shop is sold out. livingproofnewyork.com. Enjoy the episode. Peace and thank you. How do you see the longevity within skateboarding? Like, you got a lot of the OGs in skateboarding. A lot of them came up within like pool skating, vert skating, transition skating, which is less impact. But you also
For
have like
sure.
dudes from, who skated a lot of street, like Reynolds or Jim Greco, Span,
Yeah.
that whole crew, and like a lot of them seem to be doing pretty well with their body. I haven't
Yeah,
talked
for
to them, I don't
sure.
know them, but they seem like fucking better in shape than most people their age.
Yeah.
So how do you feel your path is within like longevity within skating, how long you're trying to do this
I
for?
don't, I don't know. I feel like I've been working on this video right now with some homies. It's like just kind of like a crew video, and everyone in the video is definitely going for it and, putting in good footage and stuff. And I feel like this is probably going to be one of the more like v- final video parts where I really give everything physically I have, just because I don't want to be hurt all the time. And yeah, I feel like I've heard Heath talk about it, and that was kind of where he was at too, where he just was like, dude, I just don't want to get hurt anymore. Like, it fucking sucks, Like, I've been through the ringer with having a lot of surgeries and injuries, and at a certain point, when you just want to be able to do other stuff that you love to do, it's hard to accept that you're gonna just break yourself off all the time for the, however long. So I obviously want to skate forever, and that's another part of it is if I want to do it longevity wise, I have to be smarter about how serious I actually take, sending my body off a giant rail or whatever it is, because shit happens. And the more, I mean, the older you get, it's like, fuck, I'll cramp up just skating nowadays, and it's like, oh, now my leg's fucked up. Like, it's not the same as it once was when I could just bounce back from anything. But I'm just gonna keep skating as long as I can, and whether that's professional or for fun, I don't know, but it's just one of the things I love doing, and just happened to be the thing that I got the best at out of all my, hobbies, I guess you could call them.
Um, you talk about in one of the interviews I was listening to how within skateboarding there's this culture of like it's like a very like party rock and roll, sex drugs rock and
Hmm.
roll type of thing. Um, Especially like like a generation or two or three ago, then it's like even more so than it is now, I'd say, based on like the videos that are coming out. Um,
Yeah.
and you talk about how like there was a point in your life where you were just all in to becoming a pro skater. Like you kind of like
Yeah.
almost missed out on things because you were going full on in to do that. I guess take me through that mindset of like, all right, I'm gonna do everything I possibly can to go pro, and what your lifestyle was like back then.
Yeah, I think it was probably like 15, 16, 17 is when that shift mentally happened, to where I just had to ultimately make a decision. It was like, oh, do I want to, sit around with my homies that aren't trying to actually pursue like a pro career in any type of, facet they're interested in, like surfing or snowboarding. They just like to go surf, or they just like to go snowboard. And at that point I was, filming video parts, and but at the same time I would just go chill with the homies and sit on the beach all day and like, dork around with a surfboard. And at a certain point I was just like, man, I just want to just focus on skating and just see, just like give it everything I got and see, if I'm actually good enough. And I think that was also a way to kind of protect myself emotionally growing up, just because there's always a stipulation of like, oh, his dad's Tony Hawk, so he's just, gonna get stuff hooked up no matter what. So maybe that was like a way to protect myself from those feelings of like, oh, I'm not good enough, or if I actually try and I don't make it, then I'm gonna be bummed out, or something like that. But yeah, I just started just skating a lot more, like taking it, I don't know, just trying to learn new tricks. And I think something just clicked too around then, like physically, like I just got more strength and kind of grew into my body and kind of grew out of this like scared stage of the fear of like skating actual skate spots. I think I kind of had like a little more of a late bloom situation compared to some of my other buddies like Figgy and all those guys were, they're skating like 20 stair handrails when they're 15, and I was just not that guy. I was like, no, it's not for me. And so just skating a lot more. And then I think I kind of found like my squad of homies too, like when we started making those Shep Dogs videos, that was like I was just having fun. And I think I'm like a big believer in when you're having fun is when you're performing your best. Like I think fun mixed with a little bit of, competitiveness is like the ultimate formula for probably the best version of yourself, I think, if you're trying to do something like that. So yeah, I was just skating all the time. Like we were just out filming, like, obviously we had to go to school, but in the summertime, every day we're just literally skating from spot to spot in San Diego, just trying to get tricks, make videos, and then just started kind of working out, like started getting hooked up from brands that weren't associated with my dad. And that's kind of when I think I was realizing, okay, this is something I could maybe do if I just keep skating.
Yeah. So then you got put onto Baker, which was like a big thing. How was that?
That was cool. I mean, I don't know, I think it's just that type of thing, like when you're so in something and you're just doing something because you love it and you're so passionate about it, you don't realize that those type of things will come. I think it's the cliche thing of like enjoying the journey of it. And one day it was just on my doorstep like that, and I didn't even ever think that was something that would be possible, but I was just so in love with skating and filming and being out there with my homies that that's what came of it. And I think that's the ultimate path of getting to wherever you want to be is just enjoying it.
It's dope too, because that's like one of the staple board, like just skate teams in general that you'd want to be on. Were you kind of like positioning or aiming for that one, or it just happened the way?
No, I would never even really probably had plans to like leave Birdhouse. I was just like, oh, whatever, like that's just kind of is, that's just where I'll be, because I don't think any brands would want to put me on or whatever. I've always kind of just been more like defensive in that way, where I just would rather put my head down and not even put myself out there, really just be like, oh, whatever, it's all good, like I get it, I'll just skate for Birdhouse. And that's kind of is what it is because my dad's there. But obviously at that point I was skating well enough to be at least sponsored by Birdhouse in like a way that people weren't going to look at it like I was just getting hooked up just because of who my dad was. But then when the Baker thing happened, I was like, oh shit, this is real now. And I think that even lit what more of a fire in me and made me kind of truly like chase my full potential of skating because I had something to prove, I guess, then.
Yeah. And that was when you were like what? Like 19, 20, 21?
Yeah, like 18, 19, I think is when that happened.
Yeah.
So a lot of life changes going on then too, like moving out of the house, getting on Baker, just kind of a whirlwind of like it's all kind of a blur, to be honest. But next thing I knew, I was, yeah, on Baker, and kind of the whole thing was actually happening, like real deal.
Yeah, and then you ended up turning pro at 21.
Yeah.
How was that?
That was cool. It was unexpected for sure. I was at the beginning stage of a long, like prolonged list of ankle injuries that started in my early 20s, and I was kind of just starting to have some issues with my ankles. I remember I had like a cast on when I turned pro that night. I hurt my ankle skating at Black Box, this spot in Carlsbad that's like it was the zero. And mystery distribution that they had a skate park in, and me and my buddies would skate there like all the time. They had a perfect, like I think it was like 8 or 9 stair handrail, and you could just learn tricks. We'd go there, learn tricks, and then go skate. And yeah, we were there all the time. And I hurt my ankle there pretty bad, and that was the start. And so it was just weird. It felt unexpected. I was like, I didn't really feel like I was there yet, but I think bringing it back to like jiu-jitsu, I feel like that's kind of how the same thing is when you get a belt. It's like you don't know it, but everyone around you knows it type thing. And then it just happened, and I was tripping for sure. I did not expect it.
Yeah. Did you almost feel like, damn, like I shouldn't be pro right now? Because you're saying about the jiu-jitsu thing, which is something that I definitely relate to because I've
Yeah.
never gone pro in skating, but like at least with training, it's like when I've gotten new belts, I'm like, what did you just do, dude?
Yeah. It was kind of like we got the board. I was like, obviously you're super stoked in the initial moment, and then kind of the reality of it comes down, and you're like, I was like, like I don't know, like this feels kind of like weird, and like I was 21, it's like pretty young, and for something like that to happen, and it just felt bizarre because I was injured, so I couldn't really like. It was just a weird mix of emotions, I think, like the injury with that on top of it, and uh, obviously being super super stoked, but at the same time feeling like just confused by the whole thing a little bit, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and you've never really had like you don't I mean you have a social media now, but you didn't have one for a while, right?
Yeah, I think it was like 2 years maybe, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, I wish I kind of still didn't, but at a certain point, a couple sponsors like Andrew actually didn't give a shit. I told him I wasn't gonna do Instagram, and he didn't really care. I mean, at that point, it's like, I'm not one of like Baker's hot selling board guys or like main guys, so it's kind of more I'm in the background, so it doesn't really matter to him, I don't think. But yeah, the sponsors were just kind of really advocating for being able to promote the products and stuff. And so I was just like, whatever, I'll just do it, like it's fine. And it's cool. You get to connect with a lot of people that you kind of weren't talking to. You get pretty like, I don't know, life slows down a lot when you're not on there.
Yeah, which can be a good thing a lot of the
For
time.
sure. Yeah. And I mean, I started training jujitsu, I think like around the time I didn't have it. And it was just like, it was kind of cool. It was like, I was just immersed in that and skating and just not thinking about anything else. And then now I get to like be super fortunate to get some stuff from brands like Show Your Roll and AP and stuff, because like just that was through Instagram, just being back on there. And I didn't really think much about that, and then I forget that it's such a social connection that you can just meet all these cool people that you wouldn't otherwise.
Yeah, I think for me, that's definitely the plus, meeting
Yeah,
people, connecting with people, doing that whole thing. And then the minus is like the effect that it has on your mental health with like consistently checking and being way too up in other people's lives. And
yeah,
you can gain a lot of inspiration from that shit. At least I do, like seeing what the people I like to see post their stuff. It's kind of like my own TV sh channel that I'm like choosing what
for
the fuck
sure.
played, but like you know, it's so easy to get caught up and then to just be so far away from reality, but you think that's reality because that's like the whole thing that you're checking. Uh,
Yeah,
Sometimes I wish that I could not be on it. I'm grateful for it too and all that, but sometimes I'm like, damn, I have to be on it with like this thing that I'm doing. Like,
yeah, totally.
it would be straight up impossible. So I'm grateful for that. But it would be nice. I've taken like the most I've taken a break has been like I think 2 full weeks of zero because I was traveling and I just didn't have any service at all.
Mm.
And I straight up like as crazy as it sounds, like feel like I healed my mind during that period of time. Like low
Yeah,
level anxiety completely disappeared. Shit that I thought was a big deal, I realized like, dude, the shit doesn't matter whatsoever.
yeah,
I was freaking
totally.
out for no reason.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah, definitely. Just spent a lot of time with my own mind in those few years when I wasn't doing it, and kind of learned about, you know, who I am, who I want to be, like learned a lot about just more of like a I don't know, I feel like I just got back to like a normal place in my life, like just spending more time with family, spending a lot of time with my now wife, and just like being just in the moment, is like cliche and as like corny as that whole stigma is with it, but it was really just figuring all that stuff out with myself. And now when people have asked me now, like talk to some people that are kind of now have some like following on the internet, and they ask me like, how do you deal with this stuff? Like I'm just kind of now starting to, like they're starting to get hate or whatever it is. And I just am like, as long as you're like happy with who you are and happy with yourself, then if you know who you are and you know what you stand for, and you've truly like kind of became the person you were meant to be, then like that stuff doesn't really matter because it's just some person saying something about something they don't really know anything about. And then obviously there's, going to be times where people are validated to say things that maybe if you're, being a kook or you blew it or something, that's just how it goes. But yeah, it was cool. It was just, I mean, I definitely was like super zoned in on just training like jujitsu a lot, and I feel like that was a cool way to kind of spend that time, like just training all the time and not even seeing like the maybe the satisfaction of people being like stoked that you are training jujitsu or whatever, by posting it on the internet. You're just like, I was just in it, and then now it's cool because I get to link with people that do train, and they get stoked when people that do other things kind of come into their world. It's like they get hyped to see people that maybe do something they like, and then they do something you like, and you meet in the middle, and it's cool.
For me too, it's like when I wake up in the morning, I have a billion things that go through my mind of like, this has to be done. Gotta hit up this person. Don't forget that. Gotta tell the homie this. Gotta do that. And I feel like something that I do is like, I'm like, oh, I gotta do all this shit right now. Like, I gotta do it right fucking.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll start fucking freaking out and all that. And I've kind of always been that way. And it's definitely not the healthiest thing to do. And then what training does for me is like I am like I mean you know this and people who train know this, but like for people who don't train or have never trained, it's like after you're done with your rounds, like I'm not thinking about straight up anything at all.
Yeah,
It's
for
like
real.
probably the only time of the day where I'm like 100% at peace because I can't think of anything that has ever happened to me, like ever. Like
Yeah,
all I can think
for
about,
sure.
I'm just like there, like breathing, fucking just had some like crazy, like primal situation going down. And like,
Yeah.
it's just, I can feel like, yeah, this is like, if I fuck around and find out, I could fuck my knee up and shit. But like, realistically, this is healthy for my mind because this is natural. This is like a human state. This is a state of
Yeah.
being human that we're like separated from with all the shit that we have to do to stay alive now.
Yeah.
And that for that, I'm extremely grateful for. And it's also cool, like I grew up skateboarding, and that was my sole obsession, sole identity, sole everything for so many years. And I never ever pictured that I could be into anything else ever. Uh,
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine like being into anything else ever. Obviously, I'm like 11, 12, 13, whatever, 17 years old and shit at that time. But then like as time passed and I got into other stuff, and then I find out like it's mad cool for me personally when I find out that like, oh, fucking Riley Hawk trains jujitsu. What the fuck? When I saw that video that they did on you and like I saw like the thumbnail of you and a gi, I was like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
Like I just didn't expect it. Or even like Chris Russell. There's some others like Lottie trains.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Actually, I've trained with Mike. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's dope. It's super dope, and it makes sense too because it's like a rugged activity
For
and
sure.
very like artistic activity once you can get the hang of it and actually do shit and express yourself. Like in this subtle way, the same way that happens within, skateboarding. But the big difference I feel like is that when you're training any type of martial arts, you gotta fucking be on point. Like it's actually like cooler to wake up early, to eat right, to fucking
Yeah,
be able to I want to do the splits so bad, just to be able to be like fully like mobile. Just that's like super cool. Whereas like growing up in skateboarding, that like wasn't that cool. It's becoming more accepted now. It's just
for
way more
sure.
people are doing it, but that's like a huge difference that I find that's beneficial.
Totally. I mean, if I think about like, I'm like, oh, I could go like full like, health kick guy on Instagram and like maybe try to help some people out with like just showing what I do, but I'm like, whatever. Like if people want to find that road, they'll find it themselves. But yeah, I mean, I do yoga with my wife. We haven't been so much lately, but I swear I fear yoga more than any other thing I do. Yoga is so savage. Like when I'm like trying to do a squat, that was like my goal. Like you said, the splits. Like I just want to be able to do a good squat because my hips and ankles are just so jacked, and like that was my goal, and I still haven't quite got there, but I'm working on it. But yeah, yoga is I think super like beneficial for everything. Skating, training, like just being limber and all that stuff is definitely key to longevity.
Yeah,
Because
no doubt. What type
I've
of
trained with guys that are just so rigid and like they're strong and rigid, but you can just tell when someone is, like agile. And I'd rather be the agile guy versus the kind of big stiff guy.
yeah, I want like all my capabilities like just ready.
Oh.
I want all my like mobility and like my range of motion. Um, what type of yoga are you doing?
We do. I think it's like primarily like restorative, so it's just pretty like simple, very basic, like I guess the equivalent of like a fundamentals jiu-jitsu class. Like you're just learning like super basic positions and just kind of really trying to learn how to get deeper in the stretches and stuff. But it's at a place called Yoga Six. We go. It's like in a strip mall. It's very much like me and her, and then a bunch of like older ladies. It's like a it's not like a cool hip yoga place to go to at all. But we like it that way. We want it to just be like more just about going to stretch and stuff. Not like we're not trying to socialize and have it be like a club or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool, man, that you've gotten into all this stuff. Um, Especially because like back to the like the pro thing, it's like you were saying how you went pro at 21 and then like it was actually around like 22, 23 or something like that you started getting into drinking and partying
Mhm.
and doing the whole like I guess pro skater thing. Fucking
Yeah.
and obviously, what type of time you're on now is just completely different from that. I guess take me through getting into like the more partying aspects of skateboarding and how that all panned out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just came down to, like I've talked about, like miss out on all these life opportunities because you're so driven to get to this goal that you have. And that goal was to be a pro skater. And I, never drank or partied or anything growing up when all my buddies were going to house parties and kind of, living that life, being a little more rowdy, you could say. I was always real reserved and just like, just cared about, I don't know, not even just skating necessarily, but just being able to do the things I want to do, like surfing, skating, snowboarding, all that stuff. So then I was dealing with all these injuries that just were like just really mentally taking a toll for sure. And during the downtime when my ankles were, not completely destroyed to where I couldn't walk, but they were just not able to be in like a full skating functionality, I would, be like, at that point I just bought my house that I lived in for quite a while in Oceanside, like South Oceanside, which is like, half mile maybe from the coast highway, and there's just bars and beach life, and I was like, oh, whatever, just start cruising to the bars and, have a beer there, and uh eventually I just kind of stopped wanting to drink beer. It was actually I was having a lot of issues with like my stomach because of the beer. Like I just didn't tolerate the beer well. Like I'm super allergic to fucking everything. I have like an EpiPen I have to carry around just in case if something ever happens. But I wasn't liking the beer, so I was like, oh, I'll get like a cocktail or whatever, and then one thing leads to another, and then it's just like just whiskey on the rocks, and that is I think when everything kind of started to definitely go downhill when it just turns to just the straight liquor when that's your drink of choice, like going to the bar and you're just first thing you're doing is sipping on some whiskey and then more whiskey. And honestly what I think really led to more of the drinking habits was just the injuries leading to not being able to like perform the way I want, and that's kind of like how you I would cope with it was just to be like, ah, fuck it, I can't skate anyways, like whatever. It's my ankle's still fucked, but little did I know I'm actually like prolonging all my injuries by going out and drinking. You find out later how just detrimental alcohol is to like your body when you're trying to heal it or do anything that is like physically demanding. So that was going on, and then I had a bunch of buddies that we'd all play music and playing shows and going on the road with bands and stuff, and just like you're just in a bar all the time, like that's just your life. So I was just drinking all the time, and it just got to the point where that was just my life was still being active. Like I was, essentially I feel like what you would call a functioning alcoholic, where I could function fine, but I was just always looking for a sip of something. So I just got burnt on it and just wanted to change because I knew I could just see like where the road was going with like some friends that were getting into a lot of dumb situations and a lot of trouble and health issues because of drinking, and took a step back and I was like, oh shit, well like that's like my crew. Like I'm like, I'm out drinking as much as these dudes, and that's what's happening to them. So like, it's probably only a matter of time before I do something really dumb, or a physical ailment happens because of drinking, like liver explodes or something. Like because we were out there drinking to that extent for sure, and I was it was almost worse just because I was able to maintain myself pretty well, and I wasn't like a wild drunk, so no one ever was like he's out of control or whatever. It was like just go out and have 8 whiskey on the rocks and then go home and pass out, and that was like I guess fine because I wasn't doing anything that was seeming out of control. But at the end of the day, I was like just destroying my brain and my body for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did stopping that go? Was it difficult? Did you have any help in the process of stopping? Was it a conscious decision?
It was just a point. I just reached a point. I felt like it was just boiling up. A lot of things were just boiling up in my life to a point where I just was like, just knew I was just being an idiot and just blowing it in a lot of aspects, and felt like I couldn't do the things I wanted to do anymore because I was just being just so burnt and just drinking all the time and chasing that dragon. So yeah, it was more just a conscious decision one day. I did reach out to my dad, and at the time, like I was on the road a lot, and so I wasn't like seeing him as much, but I kind of just told him I was like I'm not like in a good spot. I need some help just trying to like figure out what's going on and try to figure out how to get out of this. So I actually ended up doing some like those ketamine infusion therapy sessions, and that was like when I was kind of kicking the booze and just trying to figure out what was like driving that force to want to go down that rabbit hole so bad and just like get out of the thoughts I had going on or whatever. And it was super beneficial. It helped a lot. My dad would take me and drop me off, pick me back up after because I was just so out of my head after those infusion sessions. Are pretty brutal, and like you're just kind of you dump so much emotional baggage out, and like you're kind of still like out of it because you're essentially on like a low dosage of ketamine, so it takes a little while to come back to reality.
You mean infusion therapy? I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's like I mean it's like I guess such a like not trendy, but very much like SoCal, like kind of like microdosing mushrooms, like psilocybin stuff. But yeah, essentially they do like these infusions, and I don't know, it just brings you into this kind of like state where your guard is really dropped and you can have these therapy sessions that like you go into these places of your brain where you maybe were so buried and so like locked off that you just didn't ever think you would, open that door to talk about it with anyone. So it was definitely beneficial and I found a lot of help from it, and it wasn't something that I did long term. I just think I did like 6 or 7 sessions or something, and it helped a lot. And yeah, it was just a lot of like change at that beginning stage. I'm sure if anyone who's listening has like gone through that process, or you or like anything like that, it's just a crazy like life switch, mental change when you're trying to get out of that. You're hanging around different people because you're not going out to the bars anymore with your homies, and ultimately I think that's when like the urge to do jujitsu kind of came about, because I was watching a lot of the UFC events like through COVID. Wasn't really drinking as much, and I was like, man, I'm like physically capable of doing this type. I'm like the kind of person, if I'm like watching or into something, I want to do it. I don't like, I always trip on people that like their whole thing is like music, or their whole thing is this, but they don't even play an instrument, or they don't, it'd be like the same like for like writing, like someone who's just obsessed with graffiti, but they don't even go and do it. It's
Man,
just, I never understood
man,
that. I never understood that. I was like, I just want to do it. I'm honestly more the kind of person to like watch less and want to do it more. But so yeah, we just started training, and I think like within the first week, I was like, yep, this is what I needed for sure. Like to kick my own ass and kind of like deal with this chip on my shoulder that I have against myself for blowing it all these like last few years, and just getting in there and learning how to do something useful.
yeah, how has jiu-jitsu helped with the mental aspects of and the emotional aspects of all of that, all of the problems that you had?
Oh, I mean, I'm sure as you know, like it was brutal the first year, like just getting your ass kicked for pretty much like day in, day out. Anytime you're there, you're just getting your ass handed to you. And I was having like issues with my elbows, I remember. Like I remember I'd get in my car and like literally just want to like cry because my arms hurt so bad from framing and stuff. And like I had a lot of issues with, I've broken my elbows so many times I can't even count. But that was like, I feel like it leads to all these other avenues where I was like, okay, I need to like get in shape. Like I started going to the gym, had a buddy who's like a personal trainer, started lifting weights with him, felt the difference of when I would, go and train and I was actually feeling strong. I was like, oh shit, this is like a world's difference than when I first came in. I mean, when I first came in, I probably weighed like 155, 160 pounds, just like fresh off of, like I said, like a 4 year bender of just body was like as unhealthy as could possibly be. And then now walk around at like 175, feeling super good, eating healthy all the time. So it was a big change physically too, for sure.
Yeah, I remember the first time I went in, it was because like I was boxing and I was heavy into boxing pre jiu-jitsu, and that was like my whole thing. And then I seen some fight outside, and they ended up like grappling against like essentially the cage, like it was against like
Hmm.
like a roll down gate. And I was like, oh fuck, dude, like I wouldn't know what to do there either. Like they don't know what to do either.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know what BJJ was. I went home and like kind of just like YouTubed it for mad long, stayed up mad late, super hyped up, I was watching all the Gracie in action videos and watching them like smoke fools in their garages, and I'm like,
Yeah.
damn, this is crazy. And I was like, dude, I was like sold right away. I was like, I have to do this. Like, I have to do this immediately. Called mad places. I remember I went to the gym Bronx in the Bronx that I went to for the first 3 years of training pretty much. And I like was mad afraid. And I went like the gym's on this side of the street. I went on the other side and was just like looking from across. And I just seen like homies who I know now who are like the nicest dudes, but they were all like in their gis and shit. and I'm like looking from afar, and I'm like, oh my God, dude, I'm about to get my ass fucked up so bad. Like
Yeah, it's
they're just gonna like
intimidating.
they're just gonna like they're gonna like slap me up like in the videos, but like it has to be done. Um,
Yeah.
and then like I rolled with this kid who was a little ass kid. He was like a orange belt or yellow belt or some shit.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means at the time. And I was like, dude, this kid is not gonna beat me. I swear to God, this kid's not gonna beat me because like this is a little ass kid, so he's not gonna
Yeah.
beat. Yeah, and he beat me mad times. Like in 5 minutes,
Yeah.
he
Insane.
killed me like 5 times in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was like, dude, this shit is a whole world, and this shit is way crazier than I could have thought. Like, I like thought I knew how crazy it would be because of boxing. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get my ass whooped first time, but the level of control that someone way smaller than you can
Yeah.
have on you, that shit really left an impression on me, and I was like, and then like, similar to you, like it helped my mentality because like. I'll know like when I was weak. I'll know like when I like decided to give up or when I decided to like run from a certain person or when I decided to like all these things that are kind of just like our personalities not being as good as they could be and like our character not being as good as it could be
Yeah.
were are really like pointed out because you're like, dude, you can't escape this. This fool's in the gym every fucking day. So you're gonna see him every day. So like what are you gonna do? Just run forever? Uh
Yeah.
so it's been sick, man.
Yeah.
It's
You
it's
learn you learn how to just fucking roll with the punches and just be you just got to be down pretty much. That's the only way you get better is to just just put yourself. It's like skating where you're like, if I want to progress, I got to do shit that scares me, and that's kind of, I feel like, today, like same thing. Like today, it was so hot in there. They just started doing this noon class. We have a buddy that just came from another gym, and he's teaching the noon gi class, and I went, and by like the third round, I was just literally, it felt like I was in a sauna suit, just dying. And then there's like still, another round, and I'm like, fuck, I could just sit down on the wall, but I'm like, nah, fuck it. I'm here, I'm doing another round. But yeah, it's definitely, it's probably one of the most humbling things you can do. Like anytime you feel like you just starting to figure it out, you get put right back in your place.
Yeah, no, no doubt. 100%. There's always like there's just levels. It's just like skating, there's just levels.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, me and my buddy, I have a friend who he's a good skater. His name's Sean Stoltz. He skates for like Blood Wizard. We grew up skating our whole life, but he trains with me. He started training a little earlier at a different spot, and then he came over to the gym I'm at once I started training there because it's just a super good vibe and everyone's really cool. But yeah, we were just talking about how like just the paths of jiu-jitsu and skating are so similar, but like it's crazy. We were saying like I feel like it's the equivalent probably of getting to your purple belt in jiu-jitsu is the equivalent of like where you just start maybe trying to like film street skating clips and skating. Like that's like how long, for people that don't understand how much time goes into jiu-jitsu that skate, it's like purple belt is where you're like just breaking through to like the cusp of like, oh, okay, like I can film a trick that like it's like you're at the sponsor me video level pretty much. Like that's what it takes to get to purple belt, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, no, it's nuts. And one of the things too is like I feel like within skateboarding, like obviously there's hard work involved and there's tons of consistency and tons of getting over injuries and pain and all that. However, like a lot of your day for the most part in skateboarding is spent like chilling, like you're hanging out with friends, you're having a good time, you're laughing.
Yeah.
And like within training martial arts, there is that too, but it's like there's some fucking serious suffer camping going down within this 1 hour period.
Oh, for sure.
Like once rounds start, you're just gonna essentially suffer, and it's gonna feel mad good though in a weird ass way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like today even I was rolling with one of the dudes and I was so gassed out and I was even the one like controlling the round. I'm on top in like three-quarter mount and I look up and there's like 2.5 minutes. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know. I don't even want to be in mount for 2.5 more minutes. But yeah, it is you learn a lot about yourself in there on the mats, that's for sure. You learn like what's actually what do you have in you.
Are you into like any old school MMA or anything like that?
I mean, I try to stay as like knowledgeable as I can with that whole world, but like I said, I feel like I try to not go too deep in. I mean, I'm a huge fan of like MMA and the UFC, but I probably only really started following it in the last like 5, 6 years, so it's kind of a newer thing to me for sure in that regard. Like I'm not, not the dude that was watching like the heyday of the early UFC stuff, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean I love it. It's like probably my favorite thing to nerd out on as far as like the whole universe of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of history. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
a
it's
lot.
cool. Like so the dude Jake who's our professor at our gym, he grew up like training with a lot of dudes that went on to be in the UFC and stuff, and he was 8-0 as a pro, and he got the call for like a last minute sub in, and it was for Yoel Romero's debut, and they wanted him to fight him, and that's when he said he was like he was already not really that into it anymore, like wasn't in a camp, and he was just like no, like I'm calling it, like he just saw like videos he said of Yoel, and he's like no, I'm good on that. Like, like that's just not me. And he's such a beast. Like it's cool because he's kind of a guy that I've learned anywhere I go, a lot of people know his name and they have a lot of respect for him, which is cool because he's such a nice, mellow guy, but he's just a full savage. He got his black belt from Luis Heredia, who got it from Hickson. So it's like it's that connected right there. He got it out in Maui, so he's definitely like he's a savage. He's a big dude too. He was a pro baseball player, and then when he got dropped, he started doing jiu-jitsu. So he's like definitely been around and done a lot of stuff.
That's fucking sick, man. I have a lot of respect for the dudes who come from the generation prior because it was like they came from a generation when you did jujitsu to really fight. Like you did jujitsu to
Yeah,
go in and prove your art, prove yourself, and like the end path of jujitsu. I feel like from all that I hear and study and research and nerd out on is like the end path was to be able to be like a full on like Vale Tudo no rules fighter. Um,
yeah,
and I think that that's like the most beautiful aspect of the art is like the just like the really like let's do this shit in the context that it was like originally set for. And I'm a huge fan as well of like pure sport jujitsu.
yeah,
And I watch it and it's also like its own thing and it's beautiful as well. But like really like my favorite shit ever is the guys who like put it on the line in that regard, the guys who fought in Vale Tudo when you could stomp on someone's head, or the
so
guys
proud of
who
him.
like would be down to fight a dude who's fucking 100 pounds heavier than them.
Yeah,
And the only thing they ask for is that let this shit not end until someone is out. Like we need an infinite time limit. Oh, I can't do this shit in 5 minutes, bro.
for
Uh,
sure. I mean, I wish that. I mean, obviously it's for the sake of the fighters, but I would love to see just like a 15-minute straight UFC, type of bout because I feel like it would change everything. Like they obviously have marketed it so well for like a sport viewership type of event, but I mean, yeah, like fighting is just there's a lot more nuance to it. I feel like that is definitely would change the way people approach it.
100%. I mean, this upcoming CJI shit, it's like rounds and shit. It's like
Yeah,
which is like, valid for them and respect to what they're doing. And I'm definitely watching that shit. But it's like 100% in the UFC, if they made that shit like 115 or 25-minute round, forget about it. Shit's about to change drastically.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, how many times like have you seen? I mean, even like when Oliveira and Arman Sarukian fought, like I was like twice he got saved by the bell, fully locked up submission, and you're like, it's just weird that is the way that the
As the
fight goes
fucking
down.
as like a jujitsu fan and like and like that's like a crime. They just
Yeah, like
they
fully locked up triangle with an arm bar, and then like the buzzer goes off, and you're like, "What? That was it. That would have been it. Would have been done."
no, it would have been done. And even if it wouldn't have been done, I want to see it not be done. Like I need to see the whole
Totally.
shit. Um,
I was like, yeah, that one was trippy. And then I'm trying to think, like another one I remember that stood out to me was like when Diego Lopez had his debut and against that Evliov dude. I don't even know how you say his name, but that was another one. Like he was just submission after submission, and then the bell would go off, and yeah, that I like watching that dude fight a lot because he has. I feel like he is probably one of the most like applicable jujitsu to MMA right now. Like he's always doing weird scrambles and catching submissions. It's cool to watch. Like when it's more like fast paced scramble type because that's the kind of the jujitsu that I feel like I end up doing a lot is like a lot of scramble stuff and less just like
but
slow burn.
Ryan Ortega and him, who wins?
Dude, I don't know. That dude's scary. Diego Lopez is gnarly. But I'm that one I was so bummed that Ortega pulled out. But I mean they're doing it again. But yeah, I don't know. That one's gonna be sick because there's gonna be probably a lot of ground game exchanges that are crazy.
Those fools, like, I mean, dude, Brian Ortega's jiu-jitsu is just out of this world. Like the way
Yeah.
he can latch on and adjust and like you're out, but then you're right back into another thing. It's like that's the shit that I'm like, dude, yes. Or like I watch a lot of like old Damian Maya or BJ Penn when they were like doing
Yeah.
it's like Damian Maya's jiu-jitsu.
Sequencing submissions one after the other.
I'll be in my crib just like screaming alone on YouTube watching this shit.
Dude, yeah, it's crazy. It's cool when you get like you said that when you start understanding the like nuances of grappling and then watching the UFC, it's like so much more intriguing to me as soon as anything like starts happening on the ground because you just understand what is going on and like I'll watch it with my homies all the time that don't know anything about fighting or any type of martial arts and it's just interesting. They have no clue like what's going on when the ground stuff's happening.
Yeah, I always think about that, how it looks when you don't know what's going on. It looks like super weird, probably.
For sure. Like
Like
I feel like the
obviously
thing
it
we always
mounts
think
looks clear,
like
but
the guillotine is like they always think like that's like the end all is the guillotine. I'm like nowadays no one really catches the guillotine anymore. Like people are just so tough and resilient now. They're just like just fucking wait that thing out.
wow, man. Dude, I hope we can train one day. That'd be dope. I'm not sure when I'm coming back out there, but I'll be back out there for sure. But I want to say thank you for doing this and like I appreciate you and this was awesome.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, definitely hit me up because I mean we're close. My gym that I train at is close to Surf Fight, like just a 20-30 minute drive up north a little more and vibe super chill. It's like a good spot, so I think you would like it.
No doubt. Yeah, I'm going out to LA end of this month. But uh but I can't like I'll only be there for like 2 days, so I won't be able to
Yep.
pull up to San Diego. But I was training in LA last time I was there too. Super cool, super fun. I've trained with Bear. Bear's the homie.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah, I've never actually met him, but he's always been so cool and like always sends me gis and stuff. And I feel like, yeah, it feels weird. It feels like I'm like, I don't think I should be getting free free jujitsu shit, but I'm not gonna say no to, to anyone trying to hook it up with some gis because you can never have too many gis.
Yeah, Bear's the man. I really like Shoiro and like, what he does and how they bring like a sense of a style of culture into the
For
making
sure.
of kimonos and that whole thing is super dope and how like he's into like skating and surfing and the
Yeah.
lifestyle that was like I guess like I guess like surfing and jujitsu and like Rio de Janeiro and that whole thing. It's like super dope.
Yeah.
So
That was
um
one thing I didn't really ever like I don't know. I didn't think that that type of thing existed in like a martial art type world where it's like almost like supreme adjacent to skating, where it's like has such a cool factor like showy roll does. And now like I fully get it. But at first, when you get into jujitsu and stuff like that, you think like tap out and like stuff like that because that's what you like grew up seeing, and then you find out it's like actually all these brands like AP, Show You Roll, and Hyperfly, they make like rad stuff even outside of gis.
Yeah, it's like just creative people. I'm excited to see what happens going forward, like just with the culture and with I'm just excited. There's so much sick shit that's about to happen. This dude, not to go on a tangent, but this dude, Cade Rotolo,
Yeah,
um,
I know who Cater Tolo is.
dude, I was like, when he was gonna do his MMA debut, I'm like, dude, this is gonna be the illest shit. And then he walked in wearing the fucking Tenori Shoyoroll gi,
Yeah,
just like how they used to do in like Pride or even like early
for
UFC. Like,
sure.
and I'm like,
He looked
yo,
good on the feet too. I was surprised by how good his striking looked.
yo, I think that dude, I can't wait to see him.
I'd honestly be shocked if he doesn't go over to the UFC in the next couple of years. Like, I feel like Dana's gonna probably try to pluck him out of there.
Yeah, I think so too. I would love to see it, man. Like high level. We haven't seen like a dude with that level of jujitsu
Yeah.
in a while go to because in the context of pure jiu-jitsu, like those are the best.
His jujitsu is like perfect for MMA too, because it's so fast paced, so explosive, and like exciting. Like I feel like it would look good for jujitsu to have him over there. But I'm excited to watch the CJI stuff. It's gonna be it's gonna be nuts.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch that. I can't wait to watch that. It's gonna be dope. But yeah, man, thank you. Thank you for doing this. Whenever I'm in San Diego, I'll definitely hit you up. And if you come to New York, yo, hit me up. We'll train and chill or something.
Yeah, for sure. Where do you train out when you're out there?
In New York, I train, which is actually mad close to Clockwork. I've trained at Clockwork because Bear did this like Shoyoroll Jiu-Jitsu club thing there.
Mhm.
I trained there that day. It was kind of like an open mat style of situation. Not really like an open mat. It's hard to explain, but they did this like super creative training session. I met Josh. He's super dope. Um,
Sick.
that gym is super cool. Um, and then yeah, I train at New York City. I might beep this part out just because like I don't want fools pulling up on me.
Yeah,
But
for
um,
sure.
but yeah, nah. I'm definitely down. I'm not sure. Do you know the homie Zach Neminsky?
I don't think so.
Okay, well,
Maybe
he
I
does this
saw him.
wicked sick brand, Psychoactive, and he trains at in LA, but he trains over at Clockwork when he's in New York too. So that just came to my brain. But yeah, whenever you're here, we'll definitely meet up and train. It'll be cool.
Yeah, that'd be sick to check out some other gyms out there because I've only been to Clockwork, so it'd be cool to see some other spots for sure.
For sure, man. All right, cool.
Right
Yo,
on, dude. Well, yeah, thank you.
peace.
Later, man.